So initially, I was gonna do a video talking about some of my favorite remakes from the early 2000s, and in terms of horror. Like I'm talking about the remake of Dawn of the Dead, the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, the remake of Last House on the Left, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the sequel called The Beginning. Like, stay tuned for that video because it will be next. And I appreciate everybody for subscribing, liking, checking out the Facebook page, the Instagram. Those links will be in the description. And without any further ado, we're going to talk about The Blob. We're going to talk about The Fly. We're going to talk about The Thing, all from the 80s and all remakes and all classics. So we're going to start off with The Blob, directed by Chuck Russell, starring Kevin Dillon, who of course is Matt Dillon's younger brother. The thing I know Kevin Dillon for is in Platoon, when he basically fucking beats that fucking like retarded guy's head in, and then takes a look at Charlie Sheen and he says, "You see that fucking head come apart?" I love that shit, man. So with this movie, he plays like the badass that turns into the good guy. The effects in this film are top notch. Lyle Conway was in charge of the creature design, so he smashed it with this film. Like, there's so many good kills. Like this kill, like they kind of make it out for this guy on the cover of the film here to be the main star, but it is Kevin Dillon, and like he's amazing. I love his relationship with like the mechanic, even though it's not really, it doesn't really go too far. I love how he's kind of nice to the bum and all that shit. It's really good, man. Like this is a good film where they swap the character traits, and it's chock full of good action. There's of course a scene in a movie theater that's very brutal, and they murder a kid without any kind of like discretion or remorse, and that's always ballsy of films to do. But back then, I think you had way more of that. Way back, like in the 70s and 80s, like killing a kid was not a big deal in a film. Like check out Assault on Precinct 13. I believe that was actually a Disney star. Like a Disney kid actress was murdered in a John Carpenter film, which is great. In this film, you get a meteor showing up on Earth, and it has this substance in it, and it just wreaks havoc on a town. Like it works its way from one person to another, and just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's up to basically Kevin Dillon to destroy it. And it's goddamn good. I really like it, man. This is a fun one. These movies are fun. This is the definition of like fun horror films for me. David Cronenbergs The Fly is a fantastic take on a Vincent Price film from back in the 50s. That's actually a really, really good one too. Like when I was saying earlier about serious films, The Fly was a very serious one too, and very good. Vincent Price, like, you cannot go wrong with the guy, essentially. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My favorite two Vincent Price films, House on Haunted Hill and Last Man on Earth. Fucking love those movies. This time around, though, it's The Fly is it's not about like the bodies being like the big fly head on the man body. Like with this one, Jeff Goldblum literally turns into a fly, and it's very disgusting. And it's a good demonstration of practical effects at their finest. This is arguably one of the best practical effects anything I've ever seen. Just like the whole way he looks when his fingernails are coming off, and he's disgusting, but he plays like a suave kind of sophisticated guy. A lot of chicks think Jeff Goldblum is the shit, and you can definitely see why in a film like this, because in the beginning of the movie, with his like suit on, his like cool hair, and like he just like looks like a badass. He's smart, all that kind of stuff. So it really fits. Gina Davis is great in this film as well. I know Gina Davis. This is gonna sound fucked, from Stuart Little, because when I was a kid, Stuart Little came out. My brother's 6 years younger than me, so there's that big age gap. So those kind of movies were in my house a lot. But I can't believe I brought up Stuart Little in this fucking video about these classic movies. So basically, with The Fly, it's about Jeff Goldblum being a scientist, Gina Davis being a journalist, and her trying to get a scoop on him, and him developing this insane machine and technology that can literally transport particles to another one of his like little ports that he's devised. So he does it with like a monkey, and like that is one of the most brutal scenes ever, when he puts the one monkey through, or ape, whatever it is, through the transporter, and it just ends up looking like a big pile of shit, like, and it's like still alive. Like, that's terrible. That's one of the scariest things I've ever seen. I'm telling you, it's so gross. But of course, Jeff Goldblum eventually becomes confident that he can put himself through it, after putting through like steak and all that stuff, and he like eats the steak, and it's just weird to me. And it's weird how like so synthetic shit is now. So this movie is way ahead of its time. Cronenberg always is ahead of its time, but Jeff Goldblum eventually puts himself through this machine, and a fly gets in there, and his new body is now like, although he feels fantastic and lots of energetic like a fly, and he feels like it's almost like he's got a new body, which he pretty much has. It's quite a cool idea. Like if you got sick or anything like that, you could put yourself through this machine and heal yourself, or he's got good meaning with this machine. He's not like a mad doctor, but by the end he's insane and he's turned into a fly, and it's fucking cool to see the progress and see him climbing up on the walls and doing the aerobics and all that stuff, and just being Jeff Goldblum, and it's great. The Fly. Now, of course, I've saved my personal favorite for last, and that is The Thing by John Carpenter. This is actually a very important beta tape to me, because this actually came from, I'll read it on the back because I'm not going to fuck with the focus, 875 Hamilton Road. Now, it doesn't say on this one, so I pulled out my copy of Psycho 3, which is also beta, and it says Videoflix right there. So Videoflix is actually a video store that I used to go to all the time when I was very young. So it's really cool to own these. And I actually have a few more of them peppered throughout the shelf, but these Psycho 3, which I do like, The Thing, and Return of the Living Dead, which I'll just show because it's just badass. And the thing with betas are like they just look tremendous. Like I think anything in a clamshell to me is so appealing. I remember when I was younger, first kind of getting into collecting tapes and shit like that, and I just did not like clamshells. I thought they always looked dirty and dusty and all that shit. And now look behind me, there's like fucking tons of them. Get them for $0.25 by the dozen. I love it. But let's get back to The Thing. So I actually had the privilege of seeing The Thing and Halloween as a double feature, probably back in like 2016 at this point. It was a great time. Highland Cinema, of course, once again, seen a lot of classics there, 35 millimeter and digitally projected. But The Thing is all about a group of men up in, they're actually in Canada and British Columbia where they filmed this film, but they're supposed to be in Antarctica, where they're down there for the winter. And just as they're getting all settled in and cozy, like, all hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose. If you have not seen this film, you are in for a pleasant surprise, my friend, because it's the graphics, the gore, the special effects, rather, by Rob Bottin, sorry. Some of the most brutal stuff you've ever seen. Like almost every effect in this film has a nickname, like the head, the spider head, the Norris thing, the dog thing, like the thing with the dog in the kennel. That is insane. When its face comes apart, that shit looks real. It actually looks real. And one of the ongoing gags with me and my cousin is whenever I take him to a movie with me, we end up watching a movie where a dog gets killed, and I shouldn't make jokes, and I'm not making jokes, and it's just coincidence, but he's a big dog lover. And I remember when he first saw this, he was like, what the fuck? Like, he got to see this for his first time on the big screen. Like, could you imagine that? Like, just mind-blowing. Kurt Russell, of course, knocks out of the park everybody in the film. Keith David, the one dude that played the Fox in The Warriors, which I love, is in this film. He plays Windows or Radio or Radar. No, Radar's from MASH. I fucking love MASH, man. I gotta point that out. So, The Ultimate in Alien Terror, I highly suggest checking this film out, man. Double feature this with Alien, because this is way early 80s, and Alien is late 70s. So, and you get the same kind of vibes of being secluded, trapped on something. I would do that double feature anytime. So that brings a conclusion to this video. I appreciate everybody for watching. And let me know what you guys think about those films. And also, let me know what you think about the upcoming video that's going to be about the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Beginning, Dawn of the Dead, Hills Have Eyes, and maybe a few others. So I don't know what else to say. I'll just end it here. Adios.